It's not possible to get them on your task team as you work. Instead of, doing something and then calling them and they take 2 weeks and somebody else takes 4 weeks, would they not be willing to have somebody on your task team? So as you move, every step of the way, you've got them by your side without them compromising their independence and things like that. And then the last thing would be I'm still on this from the time, we were talking about this old assembly as a separate phase. Because the sooner we can move into the old assembly, the better. The new wing is going to take a long time. But if the old assembly we have some idea of when it can be done, and I know you told us the last time that there's going to be some exercise in that regard of when we can move into the old assembly. I think it's important that we have some venue that we can use sooner rather than later, and not make this new building here for the new guys when they come in next year. And for me personally, to walk through all of this, it'll bring tears to my eyes, because I've been here from 1994, and we saw this progress, and to go and see the condition, just to look at the photographs only, is quite depressing. And I hate to imagine walking in there and seeing this place damaged. It's like your own home that you've used for 30 years being damaged in this manner. Thank you, Chair.
You see, I allowed you to go through the details of the presentation for 2 reasons. Because you are the longest serving member of parliament. And the other one is that you have requested to be excused at 11 because you have a flight to cash. Let's first deal with the walkabout story. Are we going there or not? Then we'll then get to the details of the presentation. What is that? Thank you. Is it a movable gadget? Take it. Yeah, please go out. You are in 2 meetings. Yeah, it's fine. Just quietly take your laptop or whatever it is. Take it outside with you, please. Do not disrupt our meetings. Okay, that's fine. That was the easiest way of resolving this. Okay. Honorable Suma?
Yeah, I hope it will be quiet because the lady has left the room who's talking. I hope so. Thank you very much, Chair. And good morning, Honorable Speaker and your team, and the technical team, engineers, and everybody else in the room, and colleagues. Chair, I'm happy that we have directed the meeting because I was getting worried. But what the point, I agree with the co-chair in terms of that, let's get a more professional, not an oversighting advice, a more of a, so that we oversight, we separate our responsibilities. But also what is important with what Honorable Singh has raised or demonstrated, Chair, and the Honorable Speaker will agree with me, the importance of this work, this project, where does it oversight? Because I will tell you, it does have an implication, but I'll engage when we're engaging with the presentation. But there is something important that he has demonstrated. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Co-Chairpersons. Good morning, everyone in the House. Chairperson, I think that what is very important here is that we have to get a professional advice. That's the best we can get, because at the end of the day, should anything go wrong, we must know who we can sue at the end of the day. So let us get the advice, whatever they're going to give us. But what is critical, Chair, is that we set aside the time for today to come and do this work. So whatever advice you get on the issue of the walkabout, but the 4th and the 5th floor is not affected. it is within the building. So that one we must do so that at least we get one thing out of the way. And then what is critical again, we'll engage after this issue, as Honorable Soma has raised this issue. I'm worried that this presentation was given in another committee, whereas this is the oversight committee which is supposed to oversee the work which is done here. I'm interested, who's that committee, which Mr. Singh was referring to? Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much. Good morning, honorable members, Speaker, and co-chairpersons. I'm covered, Chair, but what I wanted to also indicate in terms of the presentation, the issue of removal of rubber, the deadline will be the 31st of July. I was just thinking, Chair, whether we should not rather wait for the rubber to be removed. It will be during the constituency period. Perhaps after then the constituency period, when also the temporary roofing has been also done, we will then be able to have access to the building. And also perhaps the issues of mold and low oxygen. I was thinking to myself, I was telling Honorable Lisoma that before the meeting that I may not go because I'm asthmatic. So if there are low levels of oxygen, that will affect people like myself. So perhaps it would be better after the constituency period when the rubber has been removed. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, co-chairs, everyone in the room. Chairperson, I'm covered with by the previous speakers because I thought that we will allow the engineers just to guide us, and then so that when we start taking a bite on it, at least we should have been guided by the expertise, because we might say whatever we are going to say, but then, I mean, I'm not experienced. I will say out of curiosity, I would like to go there, you know. Won't be finding that I'm putting my life in danger. So I will propose that they must first at least say something to us so that we are able to align ourselves to what they will advise us. Thank you, Chair.
Professionals?
Thank you, Chair. I think the position is based on interests that are conflicting. And I think the key interest is that transparency is sacrosanct in terms of the work that we're doing and as a constitutional provision. And therefore, we will take a position that we will allow a visit to take place with caution and at limited sections of the building. And that will be in the interest of transparency. And I take it that members will want to visit the building, not just for going and get a feel or look at offices, but as to say, in my objective as a member, I need to see the state of the building and marry that with the work that they say or the team says that they're going to do and the money that is going to be spent. If members can make that judgment, that's the interest that we have from a transparency point of view. However, from a cautionary point of view, we will say anybody who has a pre-existing condition, whether it's asthma or whether it's high blood pressure, because as you navigate through low oxygen levels in the building, there are unforeseen circumstances that may arise which we do not have, we cannot sign off for those. So it should strictly be about the objectives of making that fair assessment and marry the information with the financial commitments that are going to be made. So it may come out that there's only a few people that need to go, and therefore if people are going to go, we caution again that it will strictly be those that do not have slippery shoes. It may not be raining currently, but then of course from the residual effect of the rain, some of the sections will be slippery outside as you enter. So you'll be entering with wet shoes and you may slip, we may not know. And again, we'll try to coordinate and limit the number to say if we can take 10 people at a time and then rotate. But again, I request that the pictures that you see actually tell the story. So it may not really help in terms of getting into the building. But maybe members may have a better sight or better information that they can gather in the building than we do, and that information will guide us as part of the oversight work, essentially. So I would say, again, 10 people, and it should be understood. Maybe if I can just quickly run through, Chair, if you may allow me, that we emphasize in terms of the hazards. I'm not sure if that's the right platform for me to address that.
Maybe not, for the sake of time. Let's just make a ruling on this matter that is about to divide a united committee. I think personally I will not go for one reason. If they're saying that oxygen levels are very low, my lungs are not that very strong, so I will not go. So I'm not sure if we get more than 5 people who are willing, 5 members who are willing to go, it's fine. Let's agree. Just a quick round up to say I'm going, I'm not going, so that then we get over this item and engage with the presentation, and we allow those who want to go to quickly do that. Yes, Member Kharube?
Sorry, Chair, just for clarity, are we going to deal with the contents of the report and then
Yes,
10 will go?
once we have determined who is willing to go and not. Can we just quickly do that? I'm not going. Making
I suggest you send
speeches
members of the
less-
opposition. It could solve a lot of problems.
Not really. Can
I'm
we,
just joking.
Can we not
I'm willing
make
to go.
speeches? One. Are you going or not? Going? 2. Oh, sorry, ma'am. Are you going? Mr. Singh is going. Mainal Soma? Okay, Maina is going. Ndate Khadebe is going. Ndate Kha is not going. Kaiso is not going. Mr. Muletsani? Muletsani is going. And Miss It's 90%. Speaker, are you going? Okay.
Chairperson, for me, I may as well take a decision not to go. I think my age really tells it all. My issue is, if we go, right, that should only happen after a discussion has been held on the contents, on the submission made to us. I think what concerns me is there's a lot of information that we have been bombarded with. And this information we require to have time to have a conversation on some of the matters. Because, Chair, I will tell you about views which were expressed in the other forum where we, whether rightly or wrongly, we should have been there, but when you are called in to make a presentation, then we had to go and make the presentation. And there are areas where they expressed contrary views to what we are presenting here. So I would really make a plea to colleagues that we start with the engagement on the presentation, and then once that is done and people are satisfied with the issues, then the team can proceed to the assembly. But and of course I do want to say this, that whether people are healthy or not, Chair, there's an age category that you have to take into consideration. Sometimes you think that you are healthy, and yet you discover just one thing happens, and you discover that you're not as healthy. So Siviwe can go. I think she's the youngest of the group. She too, they are the youngest, but it is true. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Okay. The discussions were supposed to come after the tour, but it's fine. Let's now get into the details of the presentation. I'm now going to recognize hands for that, for the discussions, so that after the tour we can just go separate ways. We don't have to reconvene again. Okay. I'm going to start the first row and the second row in that order. Thank you. You're going to be the first to
Thank you very much. I would just like to inquire in terms of the asset verification and also your reference to SARA, as well as the status of some of the rooms in the basement of the new assembly, because all the artworks were there, and we've heard different had different communication as to the status of that. Was that part of the asset verification, and what was the outcome? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The first question is you spoke about CRDB, and I just want to know what grade or what level is going to be used on this construction. I would really be assured that a higher grade is being used, and that there's not an opportunity to try and grant some level 2 or level 1 company some opportunity here. This is a national heritage site. We need to make sure only the top people are involved in this. The next question I have relates to the age of the National Assembly, the new building, the new assembly. It was built in the 80s. Does the age affect the heritage status, or is it just the fact that it's the new assembly? Because I'm concerned that, you know, we might go down a road. I don't know. Maybe the heritage folks would tell us that. Is it just the status of the building, or is it actual the age of the building? Because we may not be held back by a whole lot of things if it's not an age, if the age isn't the issue. Then the timeline on design. When will Parliament or this committee, and of course the whip, the chief whips, when will they be presented with the projected design? This is what it's going to look like, and when we'll be able to sign off that design? Because obviously, I don't know who decides on that, what it's going to look like. If there's going to be a poll in Parliament, or whether this committee decides what it's going to look like, or is it literally going to be a reconstruction of what was there before? Because it was going to look different. We need to get clarity on that. And then finally, can we just get an idea of the condition of the old assembly? Honourable Singh spoke about when can we move back. Is it destroyed? Is it waterlogged? Can it be cleaned up? Can we use the old assembly? Is it salvageable? I've never received any information in this committee about what condition it actually is in. Maybe we'll see today. And then to help those that maybe don't want to go on the tour due to whatever reason, could we not get just circulate to this committee a full gallery of all the photographs taken so far, so that we can actually as members go through the photographs and see what the condition of the various locales are? I'm sure it's not an active crime scene anymore. It's public information, it's a public institution. Why not just circulate all the photographs so people can actually have a look? I think that might be very useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions on my side. The slide that was presented around the time flows, the concrete timelines, I think perhaps there might be a gap, because if I went back to my notes and to the presentation that was done by DBSA and the STP, I think several months ago, I think if we are going to do justice to the work of holding the Parliament to account, and by extension DBSA to account, then I think we're going to need a little bit more detail around the timelines that DBSA is talking about. And so by detail, I mean, you know, what are the concrete timelines? Yes, you've said there was a week's delay, and for various reasons around the building of the offices. But what I'm referring to is the DBSA contract in its entirety, broken down into what are the various timelines, concretely put. What is DBSA intending on doing in the month of June, in the month of July? Because I think when we have the slides, as you had, sir, it's not clear to us. And so, you know, you can come again in a month and we'll look at the graphs, and we are not seeing whether or not these timelines are being met. And so I do request that we have an in-depth look into the DBSA contract in its entirety. What are the concrete timelines? As in, what dates are we looking at? So that we can go back and say, look, you came here and you said on date so-and-so, and that's not the case. So I ask chairs for your indulgence that perhaps even if it's not done here now, that information be furnished. Because when I look at what the STB did for us a couple of months ago and this, I'm not really getting a sense as somebody who's meant to be doing this job as to where exactly we are. Then I just want to also understand, I think from Parliament mostly, have there been additional staff that have been appointed in terms of the liaison function between Parliament and DBSA? What is the nexus between DBSA and Parliament in this work? So how, you know, I think there must be an intersection obviously between the Public Works, DBSA and Parliament. I understand that there's an established relationship between Public Works and Parliament. I'm wanting to understand, are there additional staff members that have been appointed for this function of being liaison functions between DBSA and Parliament for this project? And if so, where are they located and what is their function? Then I also want to find out again from the administration. There was an internal investigation that was done for Parliament, which was obviously not reflected in this presentation. An internal investigation that was done by Parliament on the fire. I'd like to, if the Speaker perhaps can give some, or maybe her team can give us an indication of where that is. Ms. Chawa was suspended, and so we just want to understand where that matter is, what findings have they been done, what the basis of the suspension was. Then if I can just go into particular slide 4. Again, so I think what this speaks to is the concrete timelines I was talking about, because what I have here on slide 4 is where are the delays, where are the dates. So if you can just check on slide 4 what I was asking. Then slide 29, you spoke about the transition between Public Works and DBSA. So again, I would like to understand what's the envisioned division of labor between Public Works and DBSA. Yes, the site will be handed over to DBSA to be the implementing agent, but then for the duration of this 2 years, what are we expecting Public Works to do? What are we expecting DBSA to do, so that we know when we are holding you to account, we know that when we ask you, Parliament, why has this not been done? We know who we're asking. Who do we summon? Do we summon Public Works? Do we summon you? Where is the nexus? And I think, again, it's just for our benefit, so that we're not just getting, you know, PowerPoint presentations and we're not doing justice to the work that we're meant to be doing. Then slide 31. You mentioned, you made a parting shot there, which made me pause for thought, around DBSA negotiated fees. You indicated that DBSA will be requiring about 4 to 5% or 4.5% of the total fees of the project, but subject to negotiation. Now, again, I'm no construction expert, but I want to understand at what point can we as Parliament be assured that this is not going to be subject to escalating costs? Because obviously 5% of 2 billion is one thing, but 5% of 10 billion is something entirely different. So perhaps you can orientate me as somebody who doesn't understand that. Is there any way that as Parliament we can be protected from escalating costs, since the DBSA is allowed to negotiate on what they will? As I say, 5% of 2 billion is very different from 5% of 10 billion. And I would hate for Parliament to look at this in 3 years' time and say, oh, well, there were escalating costs, now this is what we've had to do. Then the last thing is, in that detail that I requested, sir, about DBSA and the timelines, it would also be really useful where they've awarded subcontractors, if we can get information and detail about who those are. I know that this is probably at an initial stage, but who those subcontractors are. Because I think, again, if we are going to do the job of looking at this with a critical eye, then we need to know who the subcontractors are that DBSA is using. Thank you so much.
Chair, yeah, just very quickly, because I had a bite early on. The issue of timelines, which Honorable Gwaruba raises, is very, very important because we can monitor the kind of work that's being done. And Honorable Speaker and colleagues from NCOP, I think you'll be aware of the unhappy experience we had when the kitchens were being renovated and next to you. Went way over the time and costs, the kitchens in the old assembly. When there was a fire there, I think. What did we have? Renovation. It was just ran way beyond the cost plus the time. So I think it's important that we have timelines so we can monitor. Secondly, I just want to know about security of the assets that are in there. Who is monitoring what assets are there? I know you said you did an audit. Because I can tell you I received information yesterday that a place that is close to my heart, underground, many of the items there were removed after the water damage. It's -2. I won't say where it is. I only saw one of it somewhere when I went yesterday, but the rest I was told it was removed after the fire. So what about security for all these other items as we're moving forward, the loose items? And then lastly, just to clear the air on which other committee received a presentation, it was the Chief Whips Forum, because they've been involved from the beginning. The accountable committee to oversee everything that happens on this project is this committee. And I think that is taken for granted, and that is, but the body that receives information to pass on to caucuses has been the Chief Whips Forum. So from there, it goes to caucuses and they report to them. So I just thought I'll just clear that here. Whether it's right or wrong, I'm not saying so, but it's the Chief Whips Forum that has been receiving regular updates on progress. Thank you.
Chair, probably, okay, no, thank you very much for the opportunity. My whip here. But nevertheless, also, we are leaders at different levels, and we must accept that, unfortunately. That's one. Two, Chair, is that all of us as a country, as people of South Africa, were very agitated after the incident, and everybody wanted to know what happened. And I think now we are more directed now. We are here in this committee. And I think we must just live with that. I know I was the one also who was vocal in this committee, double dipping because I even sit in other forums also. But because I wanted to say we shouldn't confuse the technocrats in terms of the reporting, oversighting bodies, and overstretch them unnecessarily instead of doing the work. But I think at that one we should just be in peace with it. Now it's on track. Chair, let's appreciate the presentation and the progress thereof. Because previously, we were just getting a verbal report, that nothing that you can hold on in terms of making a follow-up. And of course, there will be changes from what was said last year and what has been said early this year and what is said today, because we are progressing. What gives me a sense of comfort as an oversighting body chair, speaking for myself, and is that there is a structure that is going to account to us. But what I will request to be explicit is the organogram of the structure. And of course, there will be a annexure that explains this one deals with this one deals with this, so that we stick to our lanes, all of us. It's very important that we stick on our lanes. Because I know that some of us who have never been at a level of local government where you deal with everything and anything. Because our core mandate is to make laws and follow money and approve the plans, not to dirty our hands. So that one, it will help politically and administrative in terms of professionals, abo acting secretary and all that, and you know where, if you've got a question to ask, where do you direct it without also encroaching in other people's spaces as if you're interfering. It will assist that structure. 3, Chair. I'm happy that because my party is the most affected party, that will fast track the offices. But we shouldn't compromise the quality and the compatibility of that offices and other space in Parliament, even in IT and everything else that comes to that. Fourthly, Chair, I'm happy that it is a heritage site or yeah, but also, of course, other technical bodies that have got an interest in the project, they will be equal on the same bread, be mindful that without cutting corners legally and compliance, but to all of them, they will, even if they raise issues within the spirit that they should be progress, there will be those underlining interests that we might not deal with them, but I think all of us as different stakeholders, that would be our approach, but we must comply. Chair, you spoke about, the presentation spoke about the security during the construction, which is very important, but also we must borrow the lessons from the previous incidents within the security space, that we must be very careful that we don't surprise ourselves. Honorable Speaker will be aware what I'm referring to without mentioning it, but I'm saying that there's a sort of now, if you walk in, there's sort of a little bit realizations like that, and I'm a little bit worried. Whether it makes me comfortable, but as an oversighting body, I don't think we should be experiencing that. I think I'm happy picking up on the last point on Honorable Kwahuba in terms of knowing the professional companies. I will use the word companies, not contractors. That will benefit. It's not only to know the name, but also I'm happy that you spoke about the triple Bs and all that, that there must be a beneficiation of the local people as a broader thing, and also the youth.